In January of 2008, 18-year-old Krista Ray Pike from Madeira, California, had a lot to celebrate. She was well loved by her friends who affectionately called her Giggles, and she'd recently got back together with the man that she loved, 18-year-old Thomas Hollier. They had broken up when Krista had moved out of the area, but when she eventually moved back to Madeira, they had rekindled their romance, which proved to be even better than before. Not long after starting up their relationship again, Thomas had proposed to Krista, and she moved into Thomas's father's home with him. Family and friends of the couple were so excited for them, and Krista and Thomas were eager to begin their future together. Unbeknownst to the couple, one person would not take the news of their engagement very well. When Krista and Thomas had previously broken up, and Krista had moved away from the area, Thomas had begun a relationship with 16-year-old Brittany Navarra. Thomas and Brittany had been dating when Krista came back on the scene, until Thomas had eventually called things off with her so that he could get back together with his ex-girlfriend. Brittany had not taken this well. She was consumed with jealousy over Krista. Thomas realised that Brittany was becoming increasingly more bitter and angry over the breakup. But his intentions had never been to upset her. He simply wanted to get back together with the girl that he loved. He insisted that they all become friends to try and relieve the tension. In fact, they had been getting along so well that Brittany and her new boyfriend were coming to the home where he lived with Krista to hang out. They had even double dated on at least one occasion. Krista and Brittany even went to the shopping mall together and seemed to be getting over any animosity that was once held by Brittany. Little did anyone know was that this was all just a ploy to get close to the couple, and Brittany was still intent on getting back with Thomas. But instead of using her charm and playing fair, she resorted to a darker solution. It became almost an obsession trying to think of ways to get rid of Krista. The strategy that she eventually decided on was simple. She was going to kill her. But as much as she wanted Krista dead, she didn't want to get her hands dirty. This is when she turned to the help of a friend to do the deadly deed. Dustin Gran was a 19-year-old boy. He was a weak figure and was said to be easy to influence. In December of 2007, it was reported that he had asked Brittany what she wanted for Christmas, and Brittany had replied that she wanted Krista dead. On January the 14th, 2008, Krista had spent the day at the home where she lived with Thomas and his dad. She had been watching movies alone at home and waiting for Thomas to get back from school. One of the little things that Thomas and Krista liked to do was to write notes on the bathroom mirror for one another. Krista wrote one talking about her parents, and she mentioned that Dustin Gran had been round to the house earlier. She ended her letter with, "Write back soon." Krista then settled down on the sofa to write a shopping list. Whilst doing so, she hadn't noticed that Dustin Gran had re-entered the house. While she had her back turned to him, he brutally attacked her from behind, hitting her over the head with a dumbbell and then slashing her with a knife. Dustin then took a photo of her bleeding body on his camera phone, reportedly to prove to Brittany that she was dead. He then ran from the home. Hours later, Thomas arrived back home to discover his fiancée laying dead in a pool of blood. Distraught, he phoned the emergency services. Police arrived soon after, and Thomas became the first suspect on their list. As police probed further, they called Thomas Hollier in for questioning to determine if they were having any problems in their relationship. Thomas stated that they had broken up for a time earlier and that he had started dating another woman, but eventually went back to his relationship with Krista, which didn't set well with 16-year-old Brittany, who had fallen madly in love with Thomas. Thomas then second-guessed himself because he thought that Brittany had now befriended Krista, and the two had gone shopping together just 2 days before Krista's murder. Soon, a deadly plot came into focus. Once detectives started taking a closer look at Brittany Navarra. Police soon turned their attention to the teen. A search of her phone records proved that she had been in contact with another teenager named Dustin Robert Gran. Krista's note on the bathroom mirror also implicated Dustin. Police took the case to the public and asked for help recovering a phone or any other evidence materials that may have been discarded in a field. Thomas and his friends spent an entire day shifting through dirt in fields trying to locate the phone and murder weapon. Once police were able to recover Dustin Gran's broken phone, it revealed photos of the crime scene, including a photo of Krista Pike's bloodied body. The investigation further revealed that Brittany had hired Dustin to kill her rival, Krista Pike, so that she could have Thomas Hollier all to herself. In order to do that, Brittany Navarra hatched out a plan to befriend Thomas and Krista to gain their confidence, so she could learn the layout of the home. They started making frequent visits to the home, until one day, Dustin caught Krista Pike at the house alone. It was then that he carried out the most brutal murder imaginable. Dustin Gran was arrested, and whilst in custody, immediately told police that Brittany Navarra had made him do it. The motive behind the killing came from Brittany, the scorned ex, and they were both charged with murder. The case made headlines and was talked about so much on social media that separate trials of the pair had to be moved from their local court to the city of Modesto, an hour away. Orders were placed on legal teams and family members, preventing them from speaking out about details of the crime. It was important that the jury couldn't be influenced if they were going to give a fair verdict. The authorities agreed that despite the fact that Brittany was only 16 at the time of the murder, she would be tried as an adult because of the severity of the crime. Dustin Gran wasn't put on trial until March of 2014, when he was 25 years old. He was found guilty of first-degree murder. 3 months later, a California judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Dustin showed little emotion and declined to make a statement. With Dustin already guilty of murder, and Brittany not physically involved in the killing, the defense insisted that she couldn't be found guilty. The jury disagreed, however, and concluded that she was the mastermind behind the killing. In September of 2014, Brittany Navarra, now 21, was convicted of murder. Brittany Navarra showed absolutely no emotion, and often looked as if she couldn't wait to exit the courtroom. Krista Pike's mother brought her daughter's ashes to the court during the sentencing phase. Still, Brittany seemed unmoved. Prosecutors said that the killing of Krista was an assassination. One of the text messages from Brittany to Dustin on the day of the murder read, "Go ahead, kill her." Despite the overwhelming evidence against her, she pled not guilty. In February of 2015, she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Krista's family all showed up to the trial to show how loved she was. Krista's older sister Alexandria even spoke of naming her new baby after her late sister, and Krista's brother, Russell Jr., who was just 14 years old at the time, recalled the devastating impact of the murder. "I remember waking up to the sound of my mum crying," he said. "We didn't do much other than eat, sleep and cry." Thomas Hollier now carries Krista's ashes in a locket that he wears around his neck as a way to always feel close to his loving fiancée.